Dr. Walls and friends, we are here at a time to help, a time to heal. We are live at the 7165 Lounge at 7165 Germantown Avenue in the Mount Airy section of Philadelphia. And joining us today are several panelists who have a passion for those who have been affected by domestic violence, either they themselves or knowing someone, family members. And so at this time, I'm going to have each panelist introduce themselves, and then we're going to go around and start to fill in the blanks. So Janine, we'll start with you.
Good afternoon, everyone. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Janine Whaley. I am currently a social worker at a shelter in Philadelphia. I work primarily with women and children impacted by domestic violence, and I'm also a former Philadelphia police officer.
Good afternoon. My name is Herman Davis. I am a member of our organization called Peace and Love. I'm connected with domestic violence because my sister, my older sister, was murdered by her husband in 1985, and she had 3 small children. And what we do with domestic violence, what we do with Peace and Love is we market the issue of violence the same way that they market those rims on that car that spin and that burger that had 4 different cheeses. So the way that they raise their the way that they market that burger and those rims that holds no value in our life, we're raising the awareness to how many lives we're losing to senseless violence.
Thank you. Good morning, I'm Mary May from Therapeutic Consultations, where I provide individual, couples, and family therapy. And I also do workshops with families, children, and people who provide services to families and children. I have a passion for domestic violence for several years for both personal and professional reasons, and I just enjoy empowering individuals to make the choices that's going to make them emotionally healthy as well as mentally healthy.
Good afternoon. My name is Rosalba Torres. Make it simple, Rosa Torres. I'm a survivor of domestic violence, but I am also the award-winning author of Abuse Hidden Behind the Badge. My book is based on domestic violence by a Philadelphia chief inspector. My reason for writing my story is because I survived. Thank you.
All right, let's give a round of applause for our panelists today. So now, domestic violence is a topic or is a phrase that we hear often. But I would like at this time for the panelists to really define for our audience what exactly is domestic violence. What exactly is domestic violence? Who would like to go first?
Domestic violence, most people think of it as just the physical touch or the physical harm that is occurring for both the child, adult, or man, woman, child, whoever. But domestic violence can be both emotional, the words, the space, how someone violates your personal space. It can be in a multiple different ways on how you, anytime you feel that you have been affected or impacted by the words, emotions, and actions by someone is an act of emotional violence that can be defined as domestic violence.
Thank you. Anybody else like to add to that definition?
May I?
Go ahead, Rosa.
It's also financial.
Yes.
Many victims, their boyfriend, husband, wife, whatever, may be the breadwinner of the home. So they will use that against you. They will, in my case, my electricity, my phone got shut off. And I gave up my protection in order to make sure that my daughter and I, my last child with me, had a roof over our head. So when that financial and women go back and they're afraid, there's a reason. Mm-hmm. There's a reason why they go back. People question that when it comes to finance, they have that power over you.
And I'm glad that you brought that up because a lot of times, and let me see by a show of hands, when you think of domestic violence, how many people thought about financial being a part, financial abuse occurring with people? Many times that gets overlooked. Because as Rosa was saying, people will control the money that you have to spend. They'll empty the bank accounts, they'll turn off the credit cards, and different things like that. So that leads to the helplessness and the powerlessness that people often feel. So when we're talking about domestic violence, we are talking about physical abuse, obviously, but we're also talking about financial abuse, emotional abuse, mental abuse. And in this day and age, another one that we have to be very aware of is technological abuse. And so with technological abuse, there's that hacking into the emails, that's the checking with the text messages. And so we have to be aware of that as well. To our panelists, some of you have mentioned being affected personally by it. And I want you to share your story just a little bit more on when you started to become involved with domestic violence, when it became a passion or a personal issue for you. Herman, I'm gonna start with you. You mentioned your sister.
Well, I was young. I was a teenager when it started. Well, after a teenager, my sister was murdered, but it started for me being affected by it when I would see my sister with sunglasses on, makeup on. I would hear, I was young, so I would be eavesdropping on conversations of how her clothes was on the lawn and she cut her hair. How my dad and my uncles would do certain things, and my sister would be right back into the situation. So I became emotionally connected when I seen my sister differently from what she was in.
Yes.
And then with my nephew at the time, he would have stories where he would say certain things. So I kind of got what was going on behind the scenes from my nephew and from me listening and then me watching. And a lot of people don't realize that the kids see everything.
Yes.
Everything.
Yes.
Everything. And again, this happened in 1985, okay? I'm still affected by what my sister and my family went through. And a lot of people they attack the victim and the victimizer, and maybe the victim and the victimizer and the children, but it goes deeper than that.
Yes.
The parents are affected, cousins, girlfriends, friends are affected by it. And I don't think everybody takes that into consideration.
I think that's such a good point because, and this is why we're doing this panel discussion today, to increase the awareness, because a lot of times when people are in domestic violence situation, they just think of the one person, the targeted individual, but they don't think about the ripple effects that it has. As Herman said, children hear everything. Who here works with or has children, by a show of hands? Who here can confirm that they hear and see everything? Same show of hands. I always say, if you want to know what's going on in somebody's house, all you got to do is watch the children at play. Teachers see everything, especially kindergarten, when they go in the playhouse, the children will act it out. They imitate what they see. And so we have to understand the ripple effects. Herman also mentioned, the neighbors. How many of us live or have lived in row houses before? The neighbors hear what's going on. The coworker that comes in with the sweaters on in the middle of the summer, or the sunglasses on, and you're trying to figure out why do they still have these sunglasses on. We have to start to recognize, and we're going to talk about that a little bit later, some of the warning signs that are happening. Janine, why don't you take this moment and talk about how you became involved, and then we'll take a commercial break after you're done.
Certainly. As I said, I am a social worker who works with women and children who've been impacted by domestic violence. I initially had the opportunity, the privilege to work at this shelter many years ago. I started there as an intern back in 1988, and after completing my internship was offered a job working with teenagers who had been physically and sexually abused and consequently removed from their home. I did that for about 6 years, and while there had the privilege of working with many people who had no power, who were very hurt and wounded by choices made by people who were supposed to care for them. I left there and went into the police department, and again, a lot of the experiences that I had with colleagues who were actively involved in domestic violence situations, either as perpetrators or as victims themselves, and of course the general public going to people's homes. It further solidified the need for me to come back into social work and work with that same population. And I know Dr. Wall said we'll talk a little bit more about the psychological component a little later on, but the one thing that we need to really be aware of, and Herman mentioned it as well, when people go back, and as did Rosa, it's financial, but there's a huge psychological component at play. And it's really important that we really consider children, because a lot of the perpetrators were victims themselves. And so I just think it's really important, if we are aware that children are being exposed to domestic violence, either through witnessing it between the two adults in their homes, or either because they themselves are being victims, that we intercede as soon as possible, because that gives us the opportunity to save them.
Yes, I agree. All right, we're going to take a quick commercial break and we'll be back shortly. Some questions have been, how do you know if you are in an abusive relationship? What are the warning signs? So whether you're in the relationship, or you may have family members or a friend or a coworker or colleague or even a neighbor, and these may be some warning signs that you noticed. Does your partner insult you in public or in front of your children? Does your partner treat you like you are stupid or call you names? Does your partner try to control what you do? Does your partner react really jealous of your family and your friends? Does your partner blame you for his or her violence? Does your partner try to isolate you from family, friends? Does your partner try to keep you from activities that you previously enjoyed? Does your partner try to limit you from the activities that you participate in, from going to work, from bettering yourself, such as going back to school for education? These are the types of questions that you have to ask yourself, and these are the types of warning signs that you need to be aware of.
Come on, next up we have Ms. Joy Trusor.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much for this opportunity to share. When I was about 7 years old, my mother was a victim of domestic violence. The one thing that she told me was, if he does it once, he will do it again. And that's something that has stuck with me the rest of my life. This piece is called She Even Cries Pretty. She cries pretty in her humility, from a deep space in her modesty. She's beautiful, yet does not know. Her tears are diamonds that flow out of unknown triumphs. A jewel in the crown, pain, muffled sounds. Not unheard, cries are her. She will earn her beauty inside her power, embracing herself, loving every inch of she, contentment in her brown skin, confident in knowing herself, holding herself in the highest esteem, accepting the lineage of her strength. Look at your reflection. Love thyself whole. Close your eyes, butterfly, and soar high. Open your wings. Don't be afraid. Believe in yourself fully, gracefully as you are. This is your image God has designed. Behold, what see you? This is what I see. She even cries pretty.